Hey everyone, welcome to the American Nomad podcast. I am your host, Rob Hawley. This is the Libertarian Hour where we discuss everything from current events to politics to even people living in vehicles, doing the van life and living minimalistically, trying to be out from underneath Uncle Sam's thumb. Today on the Friday show, I actually have my good buddy again, basically my co-host now, Mr. John Leonard. So without further ado, let's get him in here, get him in the room. Say hello to John.
Hey, Rav, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? Good to see you again, sir.
How's the left coast doing for you today?
Oh, man, the weather's not too bad. It's a little chilly today. It's kind of funny. It's always so warm, but today is actually a little windy and a little chilly, which for me is actually, it's weird. I say this from time to time. It's actually kind of a nice change of pace when it's just sunny and 75 every day. You walk outside and you have a little bit of difference in the way you're like, whoa, this is different. Like I go to walk my dog and it's like I've got shorts on, and I walk outside and it's a little chilly. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy.
Well, we got up to 50 degrees today in North Carolina. So that was nice. I didn't have to wear the heavier coat. I could wear the lighter coat today.
Oh, you guys have a heat wave going on over there. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'll tell you what the temperature is here right now. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone. It is 7:02 here, and it's 55 degrees.
No, gotten cooled off. That was like our day today. We're not far behind. We're at 47 is what it says. So 47, and but when it's damp, it always feels colder.
Oh, it's saying it's going to rain at 1 a.m. 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. We got a 50% chance of rain. So yeah, we're having a little bit of a weather spurt here, which is like I said, I kind of welcome it these days because it's Groundhog Day in California, which is one reason I stay here is because of the weather. I absolutely do love the weather. I like warm weather, but it's actually kind of nice every now and then when you get a little bit of a change to it. It's not because it's just sunshine. It's just sunshine every day. Every day you walk outside, it's like Groundhog Day.
You put on the thicker t-shirt.
Yeah, put on the thicker t-shirts. Random Nomad, good to see you, buddy. Well, I started ride at 9 p.m. tonight. Yes, sir. We're on time. And I was dragging. You can ask John. He literally got the link to the show like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. It's been a long day for me. My long day started yesterday, and dealing with some family things and some health scares with my father. But
oh no,
everything's good. It's all good. It's fine now. But it's been a long couple of days.
It's not the Rona, though, is it?
No. It's he had back surgery last year, and he's herniated the disc again. So they're probably going to end up with back surgery again. So he was in some pain, had to get a trip to the doctor and the ER, and an epidural and a cortisone injection and several other things.
Gotcha. Yeah. Those things that creep up on you when you get up in your later years. My dad was having horrible knee issues, and because of his age, because he was 80, I guess he was 79 at the time, because he was 79 years old, his knees were gone. Mm-hmm. Both of his knees were gone. And his insurance, they muddled around and finally approved him to have one knee done. But he's like, if I'm going to get one knee done, why shouldn't I get both of them done at the same time? Why go do one knee and then still have one knee that's blown out when I could just get them done? If you would approve both of them, I could get them done at the same time. But because of his age, because he's 79 years old, the insurance didn't want to pay for it. But he's like, I've had you guys for 35 years as my health insurance. I've never used you for a surgery. So why would you, because of my age now. So he literally went round and round with him and finally got him to pay for his knee surgery. And now he gets around now like, he's 45 years old.
Yeah, joint replacements come a long way. Knees, hips. Most people with knees, I mean, you're up and walking the next day.
Yeah,
so,
he's doing. It's amazing. I mean, he's getting on and off horses and roping cattle and everything else like he was doing when he was young.
God, I'm 43. I don't know I could get on and off horses that well.
Let me tell you something. When I go out to the ranch, I can still get on a horse, but it's cowboys that do it on a daily basis, they make it look so easy. I grew up doing it. So, it's not something that I'm not unfamiliar with. I grew up getting on a horse every day when I was a kid. But when you living in LA and you're not getting on a horse maybe once every 10 years, 15 years, you don't realize how strenuous that is just to get up on a horse. It's kind of fun to get your leg up in the stirrup.
My wife is a horse person. She actually owned 2 horses when we got married, and then the kids started coming in, and the horses actually got. We actually didn't sell the horses. We gave them to one of them had some health issues and was a well broken horse, so we actually gave that to a family that had a special needs kid, and they rode and used a therapy horse, and the other horse is actually relatively good horse. Gus, he was a good horse, and but they both got given away to families with kids. We didn't sell. I mean, they weren't super valuable horses, and that's one of the reasons we're looking to get some land. She's a horse person, and she's tolerated not having horses now because we don't have land. And the worst thing you can do, for anyone who doesn't know, is if you own horses, they become pasture ornaments because they're not near you.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up. Like I was telling somebody, when I was in 7th grade, we had 36 head of horses. We had 36 horses. So my dad is 81 now, and I think he still has 10 out behind the house in the corrals. So,
and it's funny because here, a lot of the people, they put blankets on their horses and fly masks, and I'm thinking 37 horses, man. You'd be like, I don't even know if they're all there today. Like they're over there somewhere.
Yeah, you go and kind of look out in the pasture, and one of them be, you count them, head count them, and one of them be laying down. You can't quite see him. You're like, oh well, I hope Darky's laying down, and I just can't see him because
Yeah, good times. So what are we talking about tonight, Rav? What are we getting into, man?
Well, if you haven't heard, Biden, with a stroke of a pen, killed the Keystone XL Pipeline, and all of the green tree huggers, they were just elated. But there's been some heavy blowback today. So heavy. As soon as it was announced, one of the Canada corporations laid off 1,000 people immediately. As soon as Biden signed that executive order, they sent out an email telling these people, a Canadian firm sent out an email and saying, don't come to work. You're done. Or you're laid off. Over 1,000 people.
Yeah, the numbers I saw from it, and I know Facebook did the fact check thing on this, was it's going to impact 11,000 jobs and $2 billion in wages. Of course, the fact check said that was partially true. And they said, well, it's partially true because those were temporary jobs. Well,
it's actually
still jobs.
If you go down the list of things, though, you're talking about like people that are actually just working on the pipeline. But you also have secretaries in offices. You have people that are in these companies. They're talking that 11,000 people are people that are putting their hands on the pipeline. The people that are running the backhoes, digging the ditches and those kinds of things. But there's a whole chain of people behind that that work in offices, that do the paperwork, the foremans that drive out to the jobs, all of that stuff. So in all essence, the reality of it is probably closer to 30 to 50,000 people. If you look at it in the United States and Canada, that's another thing. They'll just give you the numbers for what's happening in Canada or what's happening in the States. They don't combine them. But when you combine them, it's a big number. And so Wisconsin today actually had 3 of their congressmen did a freaking press conference, basically just throwing just bitching and moaning and crying about this. And, I did on my Instagram story, I kind of made fun of them. I'm like, don't cry about this. Trump told you exactly what was going to happen. He told you exactly what was going to happen, and your state voted for Biden. So get in the bread line, get in Biden's bread line like everybody else, and shut the fuck up about it because you got what you voted for. So, but Canada, I don't know if you heard this, but there was an article that came out. So some of the what are they called? Starts with a P. Parliament.
The premiers. I think they have
premiers.
Premiers for each province in Canada.
Yeah. And then you have Justin Trudeau, who is the
Prime Minister.
Yeah. So some of the premiers actually came out to Trudeau and said they wanted to actually physically go to war with the United States over this pipeline thing, which is Canada doesn't even have a real active military. So it's a little bit funny, but that just shows how pissed off they are. They were freaking irate.
Yeah, I mean, and really, it disproportionately affects Alberta, but it also
Yeah,
affects, obviously, this is a large income stream and tax revenue.
yeah.
Uh,
But the deal is oil. People don't understand this. Like Texas, oil's a big deal in Texas, but Canada, that's like their biggest export is oil.
yeah.
And this pipeline for Canada was a huge, huge, huge infrastructure thing to bring in all of this new money and jobs for Canada. And it just literally just killed it with a stroke of a pen. So they are not happy. Hey, Cece, I was texting her before the show started, telling her to come watch the show. So they are literally Canada is they're losing their mind over this deal. And I made a post on my Instagram stories because I've just been going off on my Instagram stories. Cece's funny because she was telling me, Rav, you sound like you're so upset. You need to get off. It's not a good mindset. No, I'm just trolling the libs, man. They gave it to us for 4 years. Now I'm on the offense. It's funny because somebody on Twitter, one of the real pretty girls that's conservative on Twitter, she posted yesterday. She's like, it's actually kind of fun to be on the offense for a change because we're just giving it to them on Twitter, dude. We're beating them down so bad that some of them are getting off of Twitter. Some of the liberals that have been on the Trump hate train for the last 4 years, talking about Trump's a scumbag, you're a Nazi, this and that, they're literally just closing their Twitter down and getting off of Twitter because we are just railing them.
They don't have any talking points left. They don't, they don't have any, the thing I saw on Facebook was a meme. It was a picture of Jimmy Kimmel. It said, when that face, when you realize you have to come up with a new joke for the first time in 4 years, and they don't know what to talk about. They're all so used to hammering Trump.
They're still talking about Trump.
Yeah,
they can't shut up. Biden's already president, but they can't shut the fuck up about Trump.
The last show we talked about the Q train, and I still today had people telling me, it's not over.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I told you. Trump was playing golf yesterday.
I told you the other night
playing golf.
Move the goalpost.
Biden has signed 30 executive orders in 24 hours.
It's still not over.
It's over. It's over.
I told you, though, the other day when we were talking privately, I said, just wait, they're going to move the goalpost. I actually got a video last night, one of the same girls, and it's this whole video by these people just sitting in their living room dreaming shit up, that goes with Bible verses and everything else that, no, it's still part of the plan. Trump's going to be coming back. If you notice, what did they say? What is the conspiracy was that they actually didn't do the inauguration. It was fake. It didn't really happen. That's why you didn't really see it. I'm like, what?
Well, that, and then I don't know, something
about the Bible and
the there's, I don't know, there's something about the certain military I don't know, law, military order, right? And basically they're like, oh, well, if you understand this and you're in depth in it, then you understand that the military can't act until everything's actually being carried out. And once it's carried out, then there's a process they go through, and then's when they can arrest everybody for treason. And I looked at him and I said, well, that's fine, but Trump still won't be the president. The Constitution is very clear that his term ended at noon on the 20th, and I was like, so. It's just going to roll down to whoever the next person in the line of succession would be that's currently there.
I want to show you this. Well, I can't really show you, but I want to read you this tweet today. I mean, it's my favorite. I've been going off all day long because let me jump in real quick. What people don't understand with it, what these liberals here in California don't understand with the Keystone Pipeline is that thing was going to move a lot of oil from Alberta all the way down to Houston, Texas. Mm-hmm. A lot of the fracking that's going on was going to be put through that pipeline. So there was a lot of fracking and things that had been ramped up a lot that was going to be pushed through this pipeline once the pipeline was up and operational. So we were already we have already cut back our exports from the Middle East about 60% during the Trump administration. 60%, that's a lot. It doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot. We're talking billions.
Well, for the first time, we became a net exporter.
We're talking about billions of gallons of oil. Now, for the oil industry itself, it killed the oil industry because it made oil so cheap because we had more oil than we knew what to do with. We have tankers here in LA that are sitting out in the ocean right now that are storage. Have you heard this?
Oh
The
yeah, yeah.
short
Well, that's
there's
West
no
Texas Intermediate went to negative
yeah,
$34 a barrel in the COVID crisis. They were literally paying you to take the oil because it was more expensive for them to keep it in those tankers sitting out there.
yep. And so we still have tankers sitting off of the coast here in LA that can't offload because they don't have any place to put the oil because of COVID. People aren't driving as much, not using as much gasoline. So there's all this backload of oil. But killing this pipeline has changed that overnight. And what other people don't realize is in the Middle East, since about October of last year, they're trying to blame Iran because they want the warmongers want to get us into a war with Iran. But there's been tankers. There's been like 15 oil tankers that have been attacked and destroyed uh, on their way to the United States with oil exports.
Yeah.
So overnight in December, on my birthday, December 14th, one of the biggest major tankers out of Saudi Arabia was attacked. And they say it was, again, Iranians or whoever did it. But that tanker being destroyed, it scared the oil industry over there so much that oil went up from, I don't know, it was like 30 cents a barrel to $50 a barrel when that one tanker got destroyed. Now, with this pipeline getting destroyed as well, with these tankers not coming, if this economy starts to open back up and starts to ramp back up, which they're already trying to do, which is funny, right? Right on cue.
Election's over. Time to we got to keep going. We got to move.
We got to do things. These Democrat governors that said, you're going to kill grandpa if you, went to Starbucks to get a coffee. You know what I mean? Now all of a sudden we can open everything back up. They're ready to go again. But if this economy starts ramping back up, you're going to be looking at some hellacious gas prices like we haven't seen in years and years because of the inflation.
Well, people were under Obama, gas was what, $4 a gallon here in North Carolina.
It was up to the highest I ever saw it here in California was there's a little Chevron. It's kind of a gouging, I guess. They kind of gouge, but it was, I want to say it was $5.79 a gallon down there.
Mm-hmm. And Rep, you'll remember. I mean, doesn't this whole Iran and the Persian Gulf and the straits over there, and the other day the news was reporting they found a mine on the side of a ship. Does this just not remind you of the early '80s, the mid to early '80s? I mean, we've been through this playbook before in this region, and they're drumming up the same things that they did then, and they're bringing them right back up now.
But that's what they do. If you go back and look at like this whole global warming thing, I show people this all the time because, I read a lot. I've read like 2,000 books in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. And I talk to all these people that don't read, that they don't read anything, or they'll look at the headlines, but they won't read the article. You know what I mean? Yeah. If it's something that I think it's pertinent, I'll sit there and read the entire article. And I don't know where I was going with that. I just lost my train of thought. So much for me reading, but
it's all. Well, I've had the same experience. I think I know where you're going with it, which is if people understood what has happened and you go back and you look, it's almost verbatim. That's why when I get off on the libertarian point, I was a political science major and I had this book in my house forever. It's a constitutional law book, and they're like, "You actually read that?" And I'm like, "Well, that's one of the ones that I read. Yes, I actually did read that book."
Yeah. So I know what I was going to say. So in 1988. 86, 80, I'm pretty sure it was 88. I was like around 18 years old. And the AP, the United Nations, released this global warming report, right? And this was in 1988, and you can still look it up. I should look it up now. And it was released by the AP, the Associated Press, right? And it was this report on global warming. And this report said that if we didn't get global warming in check, it's the first time we'd ever, we were pretty simpletons back then. There were no internet or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So when we read this thing, it came out and it kind of caught fire through people. You know what I mean? You just run into somebody and they go, "Did you read that AP report?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, that's crazy," right? Because there was no internet or anything back then. So people just, it was kind of a word of mouth thing once people read the paper in the morning. And this AP report said that if we didn't get global warming in check, that by 1999 or by the year 2000, that Manhattan, the island of Manhattan, would be completely submerged underwater. The coasts of Florida would be 6 foot underwater. And it would basically be the end of modern civilization in America as we know it. And all of Europe, most of Europe would be underwater. And all of this stuff with the global warming, right? And it was released by this report done by the United Nations. It freaked us the fuck out. I'm not going to lie to you. We were tripping out. Prince, remember Prince?
Mm-hmm.
Prince wrote a song about it called 1999. Remember the song 1999? Mm-hmm. That's what it was referenced to, was that AP report, or that a United Nations report that was reported by the AP. So when 1999 came around, we were doing the Y2K thing that, we talked about. Mm-hmm. So that was actually what was out there. But that always was in the back of my mind, like, wait a minute, like, where's all this rising water at? It's weird nobody's talking about that. You know what I mean? We're supposed to be, I'd look up, because we had some internet back then. I'd look up, like, how has the water risen in Florida? Has the water risen in New York City? Is it flooding in? And there's nothing going on.
And there's not. I mean, you could look at so most people don't know. I mean, the Coast Guard. We'll just use the United States. They keep all the navigational buoys in operation. Yep. They measure the ocean level. They know within a quarter of an inch where that buoy is at, and nothing's happened. People on the global warming front bring up polar bears. The polar bear population has increased. I mean, okay, so there's a polar bear laying there dying. It's an animal in the wild. It happens every day, man. Like you guys got to let this go. Come up with something better than polar bears and buoys.
But the moral of this story is, if you look that, you can look this up. You can Google this, guys. I wouldn't show it. I should have pulled it up. So in 2018, the United Nations released a report reported by the AP. It was almost verbatim the exact same report that they had done in 1988. They just regurgitated it in 2018. You can let me see if I can pull it up. You talk to him for a second, John. Let me see if I can pull this up.
Yeah. The global, I try not to get into the global warming thing, because what you're going to run into, and I'll throw out a name. So I actually have a lot of respect for Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's done a lot of great work. He's a great astronomer. Yep. Really, I think he's carried the science front on from where Carl Sagan was at, and keeping it in the mainstream conversation. But his tweets and his Facebook posts are obviously very pro climate warming. The last episode of Cosmos that he did really was entirely about global warming. And, I think, to him, it's settled science because other scientists say so. But other scientists also at one point said the earth was flat. They also thought that light moved through the ether, and a lot of other things that scientists believed to be true. They believed that the solar system and the Milky Way is all there was to the universe, and all those things have been disproven. We don't know a lot about long-term climate cycles. I mean,
the deal is the climate change is real. That's not fake. Climate change is real. The climate has always been changing, and the climate will always change. The Earth used to be 2 degrees warmer than it is now. Mm-hmm. That's what they're so freaked out about, talking about that the Earth could, warm up a degree or 2 degrees. It used to be 2 degrees warmer than it is now. Okay, I found this, John. Let me see if I can do a screen share here. So this is the one from 1989. UN predicts disaster if global warming is not checked. United Nations AP, a senior UN environmental official, says the entire nations could be wiped off the face of the earth by rising sea levels if global warming trend is not reversed by the year 2000. Can you guys see that? I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah, well, I'm on the tiny screen. I don't know if they can see it. It's a little small for me. So
yeah, it's a little small. Anyway, that's what it says here. But you can see the top and the date. It was written by Peter James Spielman, June 29th, 1989. So I was a little off there. But so then, if you do this exact same search, but you search 2018.
So you're saying that the current article would not pass one of those plagiarizing website auto checks. If they ran it through, it would basically come back up and said, you already wrote this paper once.
It's really, they literally just regurgitated the same, almost the exact same thing, and they just keep bringing this stuff up. Is what they do. I mean,
Well,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
And
Well, while you're looking at, so the pipeline, most people don't know. So phases 1 through 3A and 3B are done,
okay, here
and
we go.
it's
So
moving
here,
oil.
so here it is. Study global. Okay, so this is Seth Borston. Study global warming is weakening. Oh no, this is not it. Thought this was it. That's not it. Let's see. Oh, here. Let's see if this is it. Yeah. UN report on global warming carries life or death warning. So this is from Seth Borson, that same guy, October 8th, 2018. Washington, preventing an extra single degree of heat could make a life or death difference in the next few decades for multitudes of people and ecosystems. Okay, now let's go back and forth. This is October 8th, 2018. This one is June 29th, 1989. Okay, we're all supposed to be dead by the year 2000. What year is it now, John?
Well, we've made an extra 21. We've had a good run, Rav. Just
we're
any
here.
moment we're all going to burst into flames.
And my whole deal is if Florida was being overrun by, now the water level has risen some in Florida. It has risen some in some areas, but it's not to a life and death situation. The island of
has it risen, or is it coastal erosion? See, because those two things are different. Coastlines move continuously.
No, it's actually there's places like down in Key West and actually in Miami Beach as well, where the ocean has risen just enough that it's coming up through like storm drains and stuff. So they're actually getting some standing water that's actually pushing up through storm drains and causing puddles like in city streets. So it actually has risen a little minute bit, but it's not to a point where, Miami's gone. You know what I mean? That's basically what that article, that article in 1989 was basically saying, that New York City would be gone, or the island of Manhattan would be all underwater. All of those buildings that are in Manhattan, they would be 4 to 5 stories underwater. They'd still be sticking up out of the water, but the entire island of Manhattan was going to be covered with water. That didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? And so they turn around 30 years later and just regurgitate the same thing and push the date back a little bit more. It's fear mongering.
Well, it is. And I mean, if you want to get down to it, right? So I brought up Neil deGrasse Tyson. So I'm a bit of a science junkie, and I like the astrophysics shows and the real science behind it. One thing that's going to happen is our sun's going to die. And as it dies, it loses pressure. It loses gravitational pull. So the sun expands, and it's eventually going to become as large as the orbit where Earth is at. All right. So now that's billions of years away. But the reality is, if the human species doesn't get off of this rock, it won't exist anymore. And you guys are worried about global warming. We're going to have to leave eventually anyway. I mean, use it up until it's gone and go somewhere else. Let's work on the real problem. And I think that's what Elon Musk's entire shtick is. We got to get off this planet anyway. Let's just do it now.
Well, I'm with Nostradamus. Nostradamus predicted the end of the actual modern civilization to be like, I don't know, it was like 3247 or something like that. We'll be dead 1,000 years by the time that comes around. You know what I mean? No, who knows what modern civilization is going to look like?
Well, it'll be. I mean,
not saying Nostradamus is right, but he has predicted a lot of things in the past.
As it was that the time machine, the Morlocks are going to come out from underneath and collect all the people that are on the top of the surface and eat them and harvest them. So yeah, it'll probably be closer to that, and it probably will be closer to that.
The truth is, all it would take is one super volcano, like the one in Yellowstone, to take us out.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think
a meteor, a super volcano, and it
happens. It happens, all the time. The real catastrophes that happen, we're in the middle of a pole shift. It could take another 100 years, it could take another 150 years, but it's actually, about 10 or 15,000 years overdue, according to what they can tell.
That's very true.
And nobody actually knows how that's going to affect anything. I mean, what happens when south becomes north and north becomes south? With animals, migratory patterns, or electronics. There is just absolutely no telling what'll happen, and then there's going to be a period of time where the Earth is more susceptible to solar winds, solar flares as a result of a diminished magnetic field around the Earth. That's all just real. That's actually, see, to me, that's real science, right? That's actually, things that there's a long-term cycle that we can find out about, and these people are worried about what essentially is a drop in the pan in temperature change, and whether or not we are causing it. We probably contribute to it. I'm not gonna, we probably contribute to it. When I moved to Dallas, that was my first actual experience with smog. I remember I woke up one day and it was brown, and I'm like, oh God, this sucks. I'm like, I actually like the place, but this is actually not good. So I mean, nobody wants to breathe that in, and you can look at it and see it. But are we so naive that we think we could destroy the planet? I love that show that was on, I think it was Discovery. It was like After Humans or something like that, where if all the humans died in this city, what would happen to the city and how quick would it happen? Like the buildings fall down in 10 years, like take over. I mean, it was a really great show.
It would be like a whole ecosystem in of itself already.
Sure. Don't mow your yard for one summer in the South and see what you get. I mean, you can have all kinds of stuff.
My whole thing with that is you look at it like this, is the way I look at it. Like I go down to San Diego, right? And San Diego is very clean. The air is very clean. It's just a very clean, pretty pristine city when you come to a California city. And then you can literally go park your car and walk right across the border to Mexico and to Tijuana. And they don't have there's cars driving around with no exhaust pipes, like no exhaust pipe at all.
So it's a libertarian haven, like that's the libertarian dream.
They ran over a pothole and it literally ripped the entire muffler off their car, and it's just, you know what I mean? They have no muffler at all. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just funny that like in California, like in San Diego, where they're at in San Diego, like the air quality, like getting your car emissions done and all of this stuff is so strict and so expensive, and they mess with you about it all the time, and they're always moving the goalposts to make it even more stringent. And then hell, you walk 15 minutes across the border and they ain't got anything going on over there. They still driving Volkswagen Bugs for taxi cabs, you know what I mean, that have an air cooled engine with no emissions at all, with no Cadillac converter or anything. It's just straight emissions going straight out the tailpipe.
Well, that's the typical liberal front of, we're doing this for the benefit of you and the benefit of the environment, to wrap it back into Keystone. So what I was saying is, the first three phases of the pipeline are done and oil's moving through it. What they're shutting down is them building the fourth phase of the pipeline. They're not talking about ripping up the pipeline. No. And if you've looked at any photographs, while they're doing construction, it looks like a construction zone. But what they've actually been able to do as far as wildlife conservation, it's a lot like what electric companies do in electric right-of-ways. The big power lines that have to cut through forests and have to cut through trees. They do land management and they do wildlife management to actually aid the area and the ecosystem of the area. They're not there to destroy it. When they get done doing what they're doing, it is generally cleaner and better off and better managed. And I don't understand what the environmental concern. I just don't understand what the environmental concern is with the actual pipeline in the United States. Okay, so they're not pumping the oil in the United States. They're pumping the oil in Canada, and it's being shipped through a pipeline that they're leasing, to move the oil to refineries in the United States and to the ports in the United States, because people don't realize this. Canada does have ocean, but Canada is actually landlocked for major shipping lines. It is expensive to get the oil out of Canada, hence the pipeline. I don't understand what they're concerned. Well, the pipeline might leak. Well, the oil came out of the damn ground. I mean, I get it,
back into the ground. Well, my deal is like, do you know who Cat Turd is on Twitter? He's kind of infamous.
I don't do Twitter a huge.
Nobody actually knows. Nobody actually knows who he is.
He's the Banksy of Twitter.
But it's just Cat Turd, right? And he did a tweet yesterday that was gold. I actually put it on my Facebook. My Instagram stories. I'm banned on Facebook, but this is what it says. It goes, Democrats right now. This is Democrats right now. I'm so relieved that we're shutting down a clean pipeline so we can buy oil from the non-regulated Middle East and have it transported by thousands of huge gas guzzling tankers who dump their oily bilge in the ocean. Science.
Yeah.
That's liberals, man. They act like they're the intellectual, they're supposed to be their intellect is supposed to be so superior to ours. That's like not seeing the forest for the trees. Do you know how many gallons of diesel it takes to get one of those tankers over here from the Middle East? We're talking about thousands of gallons of diesel. Thousands.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I guess, but that's the typical clean energy shtick that they give you, right? So, you can take any windmills, right? So windmills do not have a positive carbon footprint if you actually do the math. And now the big thing is, they've reached the end of the lifespan of these first generation, these massive ones.
They have no place to put them. They're burying them in landfills because they don't have the blades. They don't have any place to put them. They can't do anything with the blades. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they're not they're not going to decompose. They're just laying there. It's a real issue with bats and birds. It actually does disrupt those populations tremendously on these big wind farms. Solar is no better. So, being in the silver field and being a precious metals guy, one of the big things, silver is a major commodity used in the construction of solar panels, electrical systems, batteries, you name it. Tesla uses a ton of it. Apple uses a ton of it.
Well, the other thing is what else? What other thing did they use for those?
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, you've got lithium. You've got, I mean, just all kinds of stuff, and all that has to be mined, and it's mined with those giant trucks.
Solar panels, the batteries, everything. What else are you using? Petroleum. What is petroleum? Oil. Yeah. Raw crude. It's oil. Plastic is made out of crude. Everybody thinks if tomorrow we go to electric cars, we're not going to need fossil fuels anymore. We're not going to need crude oil anymore. This camera sitting right here, the entire body is made of a plexicarbonate plastic, which is a crude oil. It's made up. There's oil in it. There's oil in damn near everything. This monitor, everything that we use pretty much on a daily basis.
Well, and people, so it's not like I said, it's not just the oil. It is, the mining operations to bring this stuff out. Some of them are cleaner than others, but it's the law of conservation of energy, right? Okay, so you want to produce energy using goods that you have to get natural resources out of. You cannot have a more energy come out of something than what it took to create the thing. I mean, how that is, I mean, I guess if you could design a solar panel that would last for eons and be able to produce electricity for 100 years with zero maintenance and zero upkeep, maybe it would start to become carbon neutral or carbon positive to that effect. But this isn't a what are they, the machines that run indefinitely on their own power, right? They create the power, they run their own power, and perpetual machines. You cannot create a perpetual machine with the energy infrastructure in this globe. I mean, you can't. We can either decide to use less energy, or we can come up with different ways and become more efficient at using the resources that we have. But it's still going to require us to dig holes in the ground and pull stuff out, because you can't make a solar panel out of thin air. You can't make a battery case out of thin air. You can't make an electric motor out of thin air. You can't create a windmill blade out of thin air.
Well, the main thing with solar is the biggest drawback of solar is you have to have batteries for storage. So even an RV, if you take like my truck out there, my Snap-on truck it's got 4 6-volt, 4 big 6-volt. They weigh like 100 pounds a piece. They're like 400 pounds for those 4 batteries. They're 4 6-volt, 200, and they're like 224 amp hours each. 6-volt batteries. And then I have 4 starting batteries that are yellow top Optimus. So that's 8 batteries in one truck. That's a truck. Now you start putting batteries on a house for a solar system, you're talking about a hell of a lot of batteries. Well, when these batteries come to the end of their life, they got to go somewhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're talking about a lot of batteries.
Well, yeah. And you can recycle things like lead. That's easily recyclable. Yeah. What's not easily recyclable is lithium. That's a lot more complicated process to reclaim lithium out of batteries.
But that's where the battery technology is going now, is the lithium.
Well, it's lighter weight and it produces more power, and so the upfront cost is cheaper, but the reclamation of those items are not. But
the upfront cost is way more expensive. You can get a AGM, regular AGM, sealed lead acid for about $400, and the battle born of the same amp hour is about $1,000. But the Battleborn it's got a 10-year warranty. You're going to get 10 years out of that Battleborn, where you'll change that. You might get 3 or 4 out of your AGM.
Yeah, regular AGM. I'm the day job. I'm in that industry a little bit. So yeah, you're exactly right. So this all it comes down to the energy piece of this, and in a typical fashion, what the left is doing is just, oh well, we're going to kill it. Well, what are you replacing it with? Okay, I mean, you explain to me what we're going to do instead, but there's never a plan on the backside. It's ideas so good that they just have to be. That's what the left does, but they don't actually think anything through with any type of logic or concern. And the only thing I can really think of when it comes to Keystone and it comes to the petroleum industry is just perhaps the left doesn't have their pocket lined enough. And what this really is, I go back to what I've said before: follow the money, and you watch what happens. You watch in the next campaign cycle in 2 years for the House, and that what kind of money is going to be pumped into people who are influential within the House, and how much money that they get. And I don't know. I guess maybe if people have never, and I'd never been near a refinery or driven past one until I moved to Texas. Yeah. And I remember going to downtown Houston, and every major building in downtown Houston, it's like one Shell Plaza. It's one Mobile Plaza, and you start looking around, and even there in Dallas, Texaco, the Star, the Flying Pegasus, it is everywhere. And you look around, and as you're driving, you just see oil derricks in people's backyards. And I worked with the guy. This is actually a true story. They had a huge ranch. You'll appreciate this. They had a huge ranch, and he worked for me in an auto parts store. And he was just a common service writer. So he's knocking down about $30,000 a year being a service writer out there. And he's just come strolling up in this King Ranch Edition F350 one day. I mean, brand new. I'm like, dude, how in the Christ do you afford that truck? And he goes, oh, well, we got a farm. And so I said, you got a farm? He was like, well, yeah. He goes, we've got 2,500 head of cattle right now. He said, we've really scaled it down. He said, we got a lot of land. He said, my family actually they were one of the founding families of Texas. He said, we are Texans generation after generation. We have been here since before it was a republic. We have been here when it was part of Mexico, and we are still here. So they've owned the land, which also means in Texas that they own the mineral rights to all of this land. I forget how many acres. He said it was like 25,000 acres. It's pretty large ranch out there. And he said, he said, we get $1 million a month check from Shell.
Right.
And he said, I said, why are you working here? And he goes, well, he said, he's like, I like cars. And he's like, I got to do something. He goes, I'm just kind of bored. And he said, why not work in a garage? Because I enjoy it. And he's like, and I also made a lot of money on Apple. And now at this point, this was 2011, 2012. And he said that he bought Apple and had talked his dad into buying Apple as a project in middle school. And Steve Jobs had just come back to the company, and Apple was trading at like $3 a share. Right. And his dad went in with something like $150,000 and bought Apple at $3 a share. He was like, well, he said, this is all Apple money right now.
Yeah. My brother's ranch in eastern New Mexico. So they run about 500 head of cattle on that ranch, but they have 4 different pumps that pump on that ranch that are generator pumps. Because they sell water. They have mineral rights to that land, and they sell water to the oil field. So so fracking right now in eastern Mexico is huge. So they sell water, they pump and sell water from the ranch to the oil field. And I don't know what the checks are, but they're big checks. It's like $1 million a year or more.
Well, and that was interesting. You don't even have derricks on there, right? With the fracking and the drilling, they literally go down and over. And if they run under your land, they pay you. And that's, he's just like, we used to get a check.
They still have derricks out there. They have pulling units out there, pulling the regular pump jacks and stuff. I grew up in, where Denver City is? You know where Lubbock is?
Yeah.
Okay, it's outside of Lubbock. Okay. It's a county called Yoakum County, and in 1983, 84, 85, and 86, we pulled more oil out of the ground in Yoakum County than anywhere else in the United States.
Yeah, and when it hits, it's a boom. I worked for actually used to work for Tractor Supply Company, so I can talk about it a little bit. And when fracking picked up and out there in Midland, that year, that store they had opened a new store out there, and they do a pretty good job forecasting sales. They said, well, we'll think it'll do about $3 million. They did something like $17 million because the need for the corral panels and the temporary fencing and the stuff while they're setting things up, they'd buy it, and they're not going to truck it back out 3 hours to somewhere else. They just chunk it off over to the side and go buy more when they get to the next place. They're not in the business of reusing things. It costs too much to move it versus just buying it again because they're so cheap to them. And that store manager made a really great bonus that year. He got a big award for the company.
Let me jump in the room right here. Lance Hale, good to see you, my man. Brooklyn, Eve, Brooklyn English Bulldog. Eve, good to see you. Flamingo Fan Gaming says, you're lying. Biden didn't kill the Keystone XL. He killed part of it. Look it up.
Whitehouse.gov. There's an executive order there, buddy.
Executive order, my man.
That's exactly what it's doing.
That's the greatest thing about liberals. It's the greatest thing about liberals. They just, they don't even, doesn't matter if it's fact or not. They just come, So
wait, hold on. I want to come back to that. So if he didn't kill it, then Biden's lying.
Yeah,
because he admitted that he killed it. He said,
why is he lying?
Yeah, why is he lying about it?
It doesn't even make any sense. So here's another one. So Rupa, I can't even say her name. Rupali, Rupali Chanda, MD. She's a doctor on Twitter, and she tweeted this, I believe yesterday or today. Biden is now reversing the executive order put in place by President Trump to reduce pricing for insulin and epinephrine. This is not a partisan issue and will harm Americans. It doesn't even make sense. Like, why would he do that? It's just, but I'm all for it. I want Biden to roll it all back, baby. Roll it all back. I hope that Trump, the Trump put the thing in there for insulin for senior citizens and people that have are diabetics and stuff. Because these people that are diabetics, they have this life-saving insulin that they were having to pay like $600 for a freaking vial of it that'll last them like a month.
And rescue inhalers for asthma patients or asthmatics was I think they had went to $125 under Obama.
And so Trump capped it off where it couldn't be over like $60 or something like that. It was very
I mean, and it is like those epinephrine pens, right? I mean that got a lot of press, and I mean epinephrine pens are cheap to produce and cheap to manufacture, and they just jack the price.
Now it's all going to get jacked right back up. I'm all for it. I'm all for him killing this Keystone Pipeline. I hope they keep bombing the shit out of those ships coming out of Russia. I mean, out of the Middle East. And I think it's going to be hilarious if this time next year, a gallon of gas is like $18 a gallon and a loaf of bread is like $9.95. A carton of eggs is like $9.95.
Well, I'm not going to say that won't happen, but I think there's some other things that'll aid in that. The hyperinflation scenario is becoming a more realistic. I mean, we're in the beginning stages of it anyway. So when you add on top of it poor policy decisions, and you're sending signals to other countries, so you've got. Let's throw out a scenario real quick, right? Let's just say that we actually do end up in a war with China, or we end up in a war with Russia.
Or Iran. They're pushing for Iran. They've been
Iran. But I want a bigger war, because what I'm talking about is a prolonged war, a protracted war with, and then we're going to go to Canada. Hey guys, can we get some gas?
Yeah,
Canada's like, you know what, dude? F you. Take a hike. We're neutral. We're turning into Switzerland. Good luck getting gas from I don't know, Texas or Mexico.
You're on your own, guys. You're on your own. Random Nomad says $15 an hour federal minimum wage. Yeah, that's going to be everybody. All the
they were overpaid at $7.
They're all freaking celebrating that one as well, which is going to be another. It's going to be another economy killer. And
why is nobody upset over the unilateral actions of a president signing 30 executive orders? And I meant to research this because I brought it up on my podcast last night. I don't think in the first 100 years of this country there were 30 executive orders, and it has become the go-to de facto campaign thing. I'm going to sign all these executive orders on my first day in office.
Trump did that as well. I wasn't pleased with Trump doing it as well.
They've all done it since you used to get executive orders, the midnight hour executive orders, as they were leaving.
But it used to be like 2 or 3. That's right. It used to be like 2 or 3, and it used to be like something major that was going on, and it used to be something that was somewhat bipartisan that just needed to get done, and that it couldn't get past the House or the Senate, but he would just the president would just come out, make an executive order, and nobody on either side would bitch about it because it was something that really needed to get done. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, and
hold on. One of the executive orders that I remember was ramps for wheelchair access. That was an executive order that I think was done by George Senior Bush. George Senior Bush. No, who's gonna argue that? You know what I mean? A Republican or a Democrat. Who's gonna argue that a business shouldn't have to be able to grant access to somebody that's handicapped, or like a handicapped bathroom kind of thing? That used to be what the executive orders were. Now executive orders are trumping the last president, which you didn't like that he did, just immediately undoing it. And Trump did it. Trump did it too.
He did, and so it leads to an up and down. It destroys stability within the country. It leads to an up and down cycle of legislative issues that they have to just constantly change directions on. And let's think about this though. These executive orders, so revoking the Keystone permits. So you're just saying that company and all those people can't be in business anymore. You're picking winners and you're picking losers, and it goes back just like to the lockdowns and the mandates. Essential businesses can stay open. Okay, so Walmart's open, that's essential, but Bob's hardware store is not essential, or the hair salon's not essential. They're picking winners and they're picking losers, and they're doing it with executive order. So, I mean, you think about these small businesses. Say you own a small machine shop somewhere and you got a contract, and tomorrow you're closing the doors and you're sending your 50 employees home. You don't have the money to sue the president of the United States. It would literally take somebody who has an actual injury legally. They've suffered from this decision to sue the president, go through the entire federal court system, and take it all the way to the Supreme Court to determine whether or not it was constitutional. And then the president still has some leg to stand on because the government controls the leasing of public lands.
Right. So I got another tweet I want to read you guys here. I wish I could show you this, guys, so you could see it, but it's not going to work. So anyway, this is Mark Lobliner, Lobiliner on Twitter, and Mark Marc. You can look him up if you like to. This is my favorite tweet right here. It says, "Admittedly, I'm not a Trump fan. He kind of isn't a good dude. Weak ass leader, narcissist, very abrasive. But after seeing 2 days of the alternative, he's looking pretty goddamn good right now."
Well, the grass looked greener on the other side.
But that's coming from a liberal. That's not a Republican. That's a liberal that's looking at what's going on with the death of the pipeline, with the price. People don't understand how much prices are going to go up. All this stuff costs money. People talk about California and they're so California pro, because that's why everything in California is so damned expensive. All of these green tree huggers, all of this, here's a perfect example. My Snap-on truck, to register it in California with all the emission stuff, everything, to register it in California is $1,200 a year. You know how much it is to register in Arizona?
It's probably like $50.
No, it's $300 a year. It's a commercial vehicle.
Oh, so wait. Yeah, it's a weighted tag. Okay.
Yeah. You have a gross value weight that you have to pay. Yeah. If I, once I get running water in it and stuff like that, then I can have it titled in Arizona as a RV. And then it would go down to like $30 or $40 a year. But California, here's the other thing that people aren't talking about because of the COVID. I think it was February 2020. This went into effect, but any diesel commercial truck in the state of California is now illegal if it's got an engine that's older than a 2010, because they want everything on DEF. So So there was even a government study done here in the state of California, and it said 60% of the government vehicles, like the heavy equipment, like the bulldozers, all this bullshit that the state owns, 60% of the owned state's equipment is now out of it's
out of its own. Well, so let's just talk about DEF, because I mean this is just great because it goes back to the windmill example and the solar panels. Do you know what DEF is made from? It's urea. They literally farm pig urine. So you know how clean the pig industry is, and how clean all of those farms are, and the tractors that are running on them,
and that's what they're putting in the diesel,
and they have to mix it with distilled and purified reverse osmosis water in order to create the product. So now you've got a factory that has to take water, has to run it through an RO filter in order to get it to a purity level where it's not going to contaminate the vehicle's system. And all they're literally doing is spraying it into the exhaust stream so that it binds to the exhaust molecule so it doesn't become airborne and create smog.
My whole deal is the funniest thing for me with the DEF is because my brother, out in my dad in Texas, they all drive diesel trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got diesel trucks. So like my brother, we went to the landfill the last time I was there, and he goes out to, he's got like a huge, it's not really a barn, but it's like a pole barn, big, huge metal building. That he keeps hay, and he keeps a tractor in there and stuff. And back in the corner, what did he have back in the corner?
There's no telling.
All of his goddamn empty 1 gallon DEF.
Oh, the containers.
Yeah. So there was probably, I don't know. There was probably 300 of them. He just picks them up. He just takes them out of the pickup and throws them back in that corner until they get to a point where they're starting to get in the way. Mm-hmm. And he loads them all up in the bed of the truck and takes them to the landfill. And the entire time we were picking them up and loading them, he was bitching about it. He goes, "Oh, these goddamn liberals and their bullshit about all this damn DEF." He goes, how much oil does it take to make these containers? And he goes, how many of these containers are getting thrown away and getting buried in a landfill every day? Yeah, it doesn't even make any sense.
Well, he's on a farm. He should just get the burn barrel and chunk them in the burn barrel.
No, you can't now in Texas.
Oh really?
Can't. Oh, yeah. They're like, even where my dad lives, the closest town is Denver City, which is a town of 5,000 people. And he has to have a dumpster. You can't burn out there now.
Man, I didn't know. You know what surprised me, because everyone thinks
we used to have a what pit was called a burn pit. Yeah, we just dig down a pit and you put a grate thing on top of it, and you'd open it up, and then once it filled up, you just covered it up with a tractor and they'd dig another one.
When I moved to Texas, it actually surprised me because North Carolina is an open carry state. You don't need a permit to carry a gun as long as it's visible. And I moved to Texas, and when I lived there was no open carry option. This was prior to them allowing open carry for concealed carry, permitted concealed carry holders. And I was actually surprised. I'm like, wait, isn't this is the West, right? Like this is it. This is the image that you have. But no, there was no open carry in Texas.
You can open carry a rifle.
Yeah, but your handgun, you weren't going to, and I don't.
You could open carry a rifle here in California till about 5 years ago. Let's see, we got Wade in the room. Hey, buddy, what's going on? Wade's got a Snap-on truck just about like mine. He's wrapped his though. Let's see what Wade said. Convention of States ended prohibition and added the 21st Amendment, finding hope and positive ways to use our time, knowledge, and money.
Yeah, well, I'm a huge proponent of an Article 5 convention, Wade. To actually have the real convention of states to pass amendments and completely circumvent the federal system. James Madison was an absolute genius to get that included in Article 5. I'm a huge supporter of it. They've ran through several scenarios, and I think the two that they come back to all the time that unanimously pass is term limits and balanced budget. Those are the two amendments that consistently pass. I think, though, this is horrible, but the number of states that have went socialist, I don't know that we would ever get a 2/3 majority of states houses. And most people know that the state's houses just have to pass it. The governors don't have to sign it. It's not a law for the state. The state Senate doesn't have to pass it. The state houses just simply have to agree to have the convention. And then half of the states have to agree to that. And then 2/3 of the states have to actually ratify the amendment. And then it's an amendment. I mean, it's the law of the land. There's nothing anybody at the federal level can do to overturn it. The Supreme Court now cannot do anything to overturn it because it is actually the Constitution. Madison was a genius. He was a genius, and unfortunately, they are adamant against having an Article 5 convention. Both sides, Republicans and Democrats, actively campaign. They talk about it's going to be a constitutional convention and we're trying to reset the country and it's going to run amok and they're going to destroy everything we are. It's not a constitutional convention. It's an amendment convention, and the states still have to approve what the convention comes up with and what they put forward. I would really hope that one day we could get that going. That's probably the only real glimmer of hope to me if we're going to save this country, is an actual Article 5 convention.
I actually think the only thing that's going to work is a succession. We're either going to end up in a civil war, or states like Texas are going to succeed. I think that's the only peaceful solution at this point, because we're rolling off the rails. Because people just don't get along anymore as far as the left and the right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a more likely outcome. I just from a mental exercise, a convention of states, I think, could pull it back together. If somehow there was enough put behind it. If you had an Elon Musk type person who actually got behind this and put money behind it and was super verbal about it, I don't know that the deep state has enough power and enough pull to it, because it would be out of left field. There's nothing you're going to do at this juncture that could derail it. If Elon Musk gets out there on Twitter and starts talking about, we need a convention of states and supports this kind of thing, I don't think they could derail it. It would be blatantly obvious if they start going after him because he's so high profile. They would have to just leave him alone and see how it plays out.
They've already went after him though. Have you seen this? When because he came out that he had donated to several Republican causes or several Republican politicians, right. And he basically did a tweet at some point saying that he had taken the red pill or something like that, and so they just started attacking him immediately.
Well, they're too late though. I'm going to be so he's building Skynet for all practical purposes. He has his own missiles. This is how you get supervillains. Leave the guy alone, man. Like if you go prodding this bear, you may not like what happens, because he could launch a missile. Okay, let me back up. He could launch a rocket.
He's a guy though that I could see being president and maybe possibly bringing everybody together, because there's enough nerds that respect him, even though he leans right.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a funny thing. Do you know who Gabriel Rudiger is?
I do not.
Okay, he's a UFC veteran, and him and I was talking the other day, and it was so funny because he got so offended because he's one of those guys. Don't get me wrong, he's a badass. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's a former professional UFC fighter. But it was so funny because he claims to be not left or right, but he got so bent when I started telling him the other day. Him and I were having a private conversation, and I go, Elon's a conservative dude. He goes, no, not really. He's not really a conservative. I said, he just moved to Texas. He's moving to Texas. And then I sent him the tweet where Elon said, take the red pill or something like that. And Elon does I love the way Elon does it, because he just puts out these little morsels. You know what I mean? Like, take the red pill. You can take it any way you want to, but if you read through it, you're like, oh, I know what he's saying. And like when all of this shit started happening with Twitter, when Twitter started throwing everybody off, they deleted 70,000 conservative voice talking head conservatives off of Twitter, just like that. They deleted them. Then they went after Parler. And as soon as they go after Parler, all Elon said was use Telegram. That's all it said. It said USE Telegram or Signal, or one of it. It was either Signal or Telegram. And it was so funny because Jack Dorsey even tweeted it, because once Elon said that, it wasn't even 24 hours. In like 11 hours, Telegram went to #1 in the App Store. Yeah. And Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, just tweeted a heart and retweeted Elon Musk's thing that said use Telegram. Hilarious. I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard through the grapevine through a couple of pretty good sources that he is hiding out on a island in the Virgin Islands or something with top-notch security, and he is scared that what's the word to use? That there's been attempts on his life, and he's like in fear of his life kind of thing.
Really? I had not heard that.
Yeah.
No.
And there's I can't say too much because I don't want to get this video. Another thing I want to say is this is my last video, the Biden inauguration, because I put that as the title. It didn't get demonetized.
Huh.
My last 4 or 5 videos have all been demonetized. But
Well,
even though we were talking crap about the Biden inauguration, because I put the Biden inauguration, I got this notification from YouTube that said, "Congratulations, your video meets all of the YouTube standards to be monetized completely for all the advertisements." I don't want to ruin this one because I'm trying to stay kind of, but the other one is, let's see, here it is. So how am I going to word this? So anyway, there's a lawsuit that just came out against Twitter because there was, trying to figure out how to word this. There was some person that wasn't 18 or older, that was under the age of 18, that had lewd pictures of them that was on Twitter, which is called child.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was blatant child that, you know what I mean? Like the whole QAnon and Q things about what they are always talking about. Okay. So the parents of this child contacted Twitter and said, "Look, these pictures have been put up of our child. We want them taken down." And Twitter literally emailed them back and said they don't go against our guidelines, so we're not taking them down. So the parents have actually filed lawsuit now. The secretary must be in the room.
Yeah. She's been waking up every night. I don't know. She's marching back to her bedroom now. She's
Well, we just hit an hour anyway, so let's wrap it up. You got anything else you want to throw out there, John? You need to plug your it's the
chickens and silver, Facebook and YouTube. You can also find my own personal YouTube channel. I'm going to try to stream it to both, which is John Leonard. And check me out there, man. It'll be good.
I was going to say real quick. So I don't know what's going on. I've been uploading my videos to Rumble. So I set something on Rumble. Now when I upload a video to Rumble, it automatically uploads it to YouTube. So I don't know. I got to try to figure out what's going on there, because both of my videos that I uploaded to Rumble, like yesterday, I come on YouTube and Random Nomad saw them, and all of a sudden, like these 2 videos that we streamed here are all of a sudden loaded to YouTube. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So it's something that I hit on Rumble, but I'm trying to grow over there as well. So it's something else you might look at, John.
Yeah, I'm gonna get an account set up there and trying to build it. Oh, and I did start on on Facebook on Chickens and Silver. I actually did start a group also. So the Chickens and Silver group. So get there if you want to discuss these kind of topics. And I'm open to all opinions. If you're left, you're right, you're libertarian, it doesn't matter to me. Let's just be respectful. We're not going to do anything to get the group banned or get people kicked off. If you want to sound like an idiot, then sound like an idiot. I don't care. I'm all about the freedom to do what you want to do. Include making a fool of yourself. You just can't attack other people or post things that shouldn't be posted, obviously, in the group. But check it out. I'm hoping it becomes a point for libertarian-minded, independent thinkers.
So Bobby says, I have a new prediction. We are going to have to succumb to fully blown communism and become an oppressed people before there are enough people to have successful revolution. I don't know. I was kind of feeling that way as well, Bobby, but what I'm kind of have hope now is the dumpster fire that we've seen of Biden just the last 2 days. The more that hyperinflation takes off and the more prices start going, people vote with their wallet. They can say whatever they want to about their virtual signaling or their pronouns or whatever. But if people start having to pay $8 a gallon, or if they can't fill up their car, or they can't put gas in their car because gas is too expensive, they can't go to the store and buy enough food to feed the family because food's too expensive. As hyperinflation takes over as Biden is president, I think within the next 4 years, we'll get a conservative again. That's always what happens. That, right? That's what happens.
I mean, if you don't have beans in your pot, and then you absolutely.
And what happens? Every time we have a liberal president, that's what happens. Everything goes up in price. That's why California is so expensive. People don't understand this. All you have to do is look at California. Look at California. It's basically a socialist state. It's a socialist failed state. It's the richest state in the nation, but it's a third world country, and everything is the most expensive. We have the most expensive taxes, the most expensive sales tax, state income tax, everything. Everything is the most expensive in California, and we have the least quality of life in California, and it's all because it's been run by solely Democrats for the last 40 years. When Reagan was the governor of California, it wasn't like this when conservatives were in control. But since Democrats have taken over and the progressives have taken over and drove it towards socialism, it's become very, very expensive to live here. And what's happening? These liberals are leaving in droves,
Mm-hmm. And I think, I know a lot of people who I'm going to say identified as libertarian.
Red states.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts.
And the people who identified as libertarian, and me and you had this conversation before, but they actually hated Trump so much. They came from the liberal side and became libertarians, whereas I came from the conservative side and became libertarian, and they reverted back to their nature because they hated Trump so much. And I think now what they're going to see is they're going to actually see what they voted for. They're like, well, crap, I actually do hate socialism more than I didn't like Trump, but God, this guy's worse.
It's going to be just like this freaking tweet. And I may be mistaken, but I think this is a gay guy. I kind of looked at his Twitter and I think this Mark Lobender is a gay guy. And again, he said, admittedly, I'm not a Trump fan. He kind of isn't a good dude. Weak ass leader, narcissist, very abrasive. But after seeing 2 days of the alternative, he's looking pretty goddamn good right now. I think, and this is 2 days. And this is a guy that that 2 weeks ago, he was just railing against Trump. You know how Trump's anti-LBGQT.
Not even 2 weeks ago, Tuesday, he was clapping at 12:01, and today is Friday.
And I guarantee you, once hyperinflation takes over, man, and the prices on stuff starts going up, it doesn't matter who's and that's why I said it's almost a blessing that Trump's not president, because I seen this stuff coming. It was lucky that it didn't take hold more while Trump was president, because Trump really didn't have any control over it. He just
it's the macroeconomic impacts of what's going on is out of the control of the president of the United States. But I mean, Biden's doing things to usher it in quick, which, I'm a rip the Band-Aid off quick kind of person. When I was in law enforcement, I was in rookie school. I was the first one to volunteer to get hit with pepper spray.
Taser,
because it's just like, it's going to happen one way or the other. Let's just get on with it and move on.
Yeah, but I see, I don't know if we'll see a complete collapse, but we're going to see some pretty tough times coming up, especially with the Federal Reserve just printing money for these stimulus.
Yeah.
Unless, I don't know how that ends in any other way than the collapse of the dollar sooner or later.
Yeah, well, so one of the people I follow, Lynette Zhang, the question was asked, they're like, well, how long can they keep kicking the can down the road? And she goes, you're assuming they want to keep kicking the can down the road. They want to kick it down the road until they're ready for the Great Reset. And then that leads into the stuff we've talked about before.
And that's what we're going through now.
Wait there. He's like, agreed, hyperinflation's coming, grow a garden, even a guerrilla garden. Well, yeah, wait, that's why my show is Chickens and Silver. So it's about chickens and silver and some sustainability things there is what we're going to try to focus on.
Yeah, if you don't know, anybody that's watching the show, John is a libertarian, but he's not a prepper per se, but he's got chickens, a garden. He's doing all of these.
Trying to be resilient.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's going to come? There's going to be food shortages. There's going to be, random. It's okay. I own physical commodity. Yeah, exactly. Own physical things. Things you can touch and hold. Possessions 9/10 of the law.
Trade.
Anything you can barter with, and
trade's going to be a big thing. If the dollar was to collapse, the dollar's not going to be worth anything. I've got a whole desk full of dollars, but they're not going to be worth anything.
No. I mean, where people are going to get shoes, where people are going to get work gloves, where are people going to get shovels, where are people going to get canning jars. I mean, you already can't get canning jars. That is actual. I know you've got some of these sustainability people here.
Seeds will be a huge commodity. If you can just order something right now and get a hold of it, okra seeds, any kind of okra, any kind of vegetables, lettuce, any kind of seeds you can get a hold of to plant.
Yeah. And what's, I know Amazon, they're on Amazon. You can order them from websites. Is the I'm going to say non-GMO, but the heritage breed vacuum sealed survival garden packs, that they're the species that are more hardy and more resistant is
so. See, I'm a single guy. So what I did, like, God dang, it's been shit. I was living in Joshua Tree. So I ordered like 4 cases of MREs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
we're a family of 6
off eBay. Now, if you look on eBay at a case of MREs, they're over $100 freaking. It's insane. I paid I want to say I paid like $15 to $20 for a case.
A vacuum sealer, some oxygen, the little packs that remove the oxygen, and rice and beans and pasta, and that stuff will hold for 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. We are 15 minutes after the hour already. I always say I'm going to keep this thing an hour, and we always go over a few minutes, but it's always a joy to do the show with you when you're on, John. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, John, for joining me again. I'll talk to you a little bit when we get closed up here.
Yeah, anytime, looking forward to it. To be back on next Friday, and so my podcast will be tomorrow. I'm doing kind of opposite of you, so we don't overlap. So I'm going to do what is it? Man, my days are running together. Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays is the Chickens and Silver podcast, and then I'm here on Fridays, and I'm going to run myself into the ground, become podcasting famous, or get picked up by the CIA. One of the two.
Well, the thing about that podcast thing is, even though I enjoy it, you know what I mean? I really do enjoy it. Once you get into the hang of it, it's something that I actually look forward to. Even when I'm tired, it's just something I actually look forward to doing. So,
I like to share information with people. And I think me and you both go from saying you got to have a creative outlet. There's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and having a creative outlet once you're stable and other things in your life is really important for your mental health.
Absolutely. And that's the great thing about, the podcast this year of COVID with 2020, I wasn't really working. So I basically just turned this into my job. So even though 2020 was even though last year was kind of a crap year, it really helped me jumpstart this podcast and give me the time to actually work on the podcast and not have a regular job that I was doing at the same time, which you're going to have a regular job. So
yeah. And we've been wide open. So it is a crazy thing, but this time frame works for me. And we start at 7 in California, but it's 10 PM here. My whole family was in bed by 8 o'clock. So it's just me sitting over here in the corner at my desk right now.
Well, all right, man. Thanks for joining us, John. And I'm gonna try to watch your podcast. I missed your first episode, but I want to watch your podcast too. So, anyway, thanks for joining us, John. I'll let you go, and that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of the American Nomad podcast. Let me see if I can find the outro here.
Thank you for listening to the American